Welcome, everybody, to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. And as you know, talk about the 4 different types of freedom: time, financial, location, and health freedom. And in that light, I'm always interviewing entrepreneurs, investors, people doing things on the cutting edge to bring you those conversations, insights, and to share with the world. So today we have Dr. E, based out of Los Angeles, and he is a internationally renowned sports medicine doctor, entrepreneur, thought leader. And today is going to be talking all about, holistic care and healing, fitness and nutrition, entrepreneurships for underrepresented minorities. And it's going to be a fantastic discussion. Dr. E is also a physician as well. And so welcome to the show. Dr. E, welcome.
Thanks, man. Thank you for having me, Doc. I appreciate you having me. It's a pleasure, man. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. I'm always happy to have
I don't know if you can hear me.
I'm always happy to connect with fellow physicians and entrepreneurs. So tell us more about yourself, your story, and how you got started.
Yeah, so just a little bit. I'm a chiropractic sports physician. My background has just been kind of a long journey in itself. Started off, I've always had came from a family of actually really high level competitive educational background, right? So in a Nigerian community, it's like there are 4 different professions a Nigerian can have, right? Number 1, a doctor. Number 2, a lawyer. Number 3, a pharmacist or an architect of some sort. And number 4, a businessman or a businesswoman. So I like to make fun and say all these things, but in reality, the culture itself is what most people don't really know when it comes to, I don't know if you have any Nigerian friends, Chris, but the one thing that I've really learned is the more people that I get to know that may have Nigerian associates or Nigerian friends, this is the one thing that they continuously say, man, you guys are just hustlers. You guys are just, you guys know how to make it happen. You guys just do this and do that. And in my mind, I'm like, well, that's normal. you know what I mean? So, but to go back to what I was saying, and that competitive edge of that upbringing kind of pulled me in the direction, not necessarily like I wanted to be a doctor. Actually, I didn't want to be a doctor, to be quite honest with you. That was like the furthest thing that I wanted to do, because I wanted to make it in a different way and look back to my mom and, and say, hey, I didn't have to go the direction you wanted me to go. I went a different direction. And yes, I was able to figure it out. But sure, lo and behold, I got pulled into the world of medicine, and here I am, and here we are having a conversation. To tie it all together, when I was younger, a lot of sports was my thing. Sports was my thing, Chris. I was very, very, very intrigued with track and field. I played football. I ran track. I started off playing soccer, and my goal wasn't really in the academic world. I wanted to really go into the sports world. I wanted to be a professional athlete and take it as far as I can go. And I like to say that I was called to be a doctor. It wasn't something that I chose. It was something that chose me. So, and from there on out, I dedicated my life to really bringing forth the most accurate and the most recent studies, applying my practice and the way I treat people with the most up-to-date, evidence-based approaches, and care, just having the best bedside manner. And I really putting in my intention and my care to people, because that's primarily what I've always done and what I always wanted to do. So it just so happened that, I'm in a position like yourself, in an authoritative position to be able to do that and help massive amounts of people. And that's kind of my background, man.
Interesting. Yeah, I've always liked the sports analogy, the business owner, the entrepreneur analogy, because it's all about results and taking action. That story that you talked about, hustlers, I think that's, probably because we grew up in this entitled society and people think it's supposed to come without putting in the work, but we always have to,
Yeah.
which is interesting because you have various approaches to wellness and recovery. So tell us about that.
I've always been a very outside the box thinker, innovative thinker, which is hence I coined my practice, Innovate Medicine, but I didn't want to spell it with the INNOVATE like it's normally spelled. I spelled it with an ENOVATE. And innovation to me, in anything that you do, you can be an artist, you can be a carpenter, you can be anything that you want to do and be. But when you learn those foundational concepts and those foundational principles, I think that what most people, and even maybe you can also attest to this, coming out of medical school, coming out of any institution that gives you the floor plan of what you're supposed to do, you kind of take that and you can just stick to the regimented program, or B, you can cut it up and chop it up and make your own salad and decide what it is that you want to put inside of your salad, right? And so for me, my approach to recovery, my approach to holistic has always been very just unique, at least in my own perspective. And some of the people that I've also helped and taken care of can also argue to this. I've always wondered, to me, it's like, okay, somebody comes to me with a neck pain or somebody comes to me with a headache. Okay, my first thought is, okay, and most people will tell you, oh, I had a headache because, I don't know. That's the first answer. I don't know. Okay, I had a headache because, I just woke up this morning. I usually have a headache every other third week or every other day or something like that. So my approach is always to try to peel the onions, because as you know, with health, in healthcare, there's always been this Band-Aid approach and this cookie cutter regimen that most physicians just put together and patch together to give their patients. And to me, I think that's doing a disservice. So I started with a lot of questions to just kind of peel the onions back and back and back. And I said, okay, from last week, well, what was your diet like? What was your stress like? What was your approach to those things? How much sleep did you get? Did anyone emotionally make you upset this week, right? Okay, now let's dial it back to 2 weeks ago. None of those things applied. What about 2 weeks ago? None of those things applied. Okay, what about last month? And then as you ask these questions, what you start to learn is that patients they have information, right? I always say, like, in your SOAP notes and when you're doing all these questionnaires, right? The answer is in the SOAP notes, right? The answer is in the questions. They will tell you what's going on if you take the time to really dig deep and extrapolate some of those information from them by asking those questions that aren't just going to lead you to a closed-ended question, right? So for instance, recovery, like that's like one of the major things that I think that a lot of these athletes lack, because they're so go. And obviously, you being an entrepreneur, you being a physician, right? All you know is hustle. You just talked about it earlier. Go. Well, let's apply that go, right? You're constantly using your sympathetic nervous system. You're in a constant fight or flight, right? Well, what does that mean, Chris? You're constantly producing cortisol. You're constantly draining out your adrenaline. Your adrenal gland is shot to shit. Your thyroid might be in trouble, right? Let's not talk about what are the things that you're eating or not eating to actually influence those things or decrease those things, right? So that's what I'm finding a lot of, is that a lot of these apps, they don't necessarily have the full regimen to actually be able to cross those things out and figure out exactly what's happening. And when you're constantly hustling, you're tapping into a reservoir of, let's call it, currency. And that reservoir of currency, at some point, you're gonna go in overdraft. And if you're not filling your bank up with the things that it needs to be filled up with, that overdraft is going to come back and bite you in your tail, right? And so that's kind of how I frame these things, and I try to help these guys, athletes and non-athletes, and understand, because when you're so much on the go, and then you're hustling to make all these things work, and then you have practice, and then you have lifting, and then you have family coming at you, you have to figure out exactly when to peel back and to have that time for yourself in order for you to understand how to actually recalibrate so you can face the next day with those challenges, because the physical drainage is always going to show you, right? And as well as chemical drainage, as well as the spiritual drainage, as well as the emotional drainage, all of those things all tie in. And so recovering, it can take a hit on recovery when you don't pay attention to those things. I think that's kind of like the way I like to approach it,
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of the top athletes, just Tom Brady, but not just him, but others, they experiment with new ways of with different non-mainstream ideas, and they see how it makes them feel. And you see with tennis stars, and it's quite interesting. They're like willing to experiment and try things. And how about fitness and nutrition? How does that play a role?
Well, fitness and nutrition is they go hand in hand, right? It's like if your performance is lacking, then that means that the fuel you're putting into your body is also probably not the best fuel, right? So I always ask a lot of my professional athletes, like, let's say if your body type, let's say if you were to compare your body to a kind of car, right? What would you say your body is like? A lot of them say, "Oh yeah, I'm a Ferrari," or "I'm a Bugatti," or I'm a Aston Martin. And then you see the little couple of McDonald's sitting down. You see the couple of McDonald's sitting down at their desk because they just came from Chick-fil-A, right? So I'm like, okay, first of all, if your car is a Bugatti and you are a Ferrari and you're putting unleaded fuel, that shit is not going to go anywhere too fast, my friend. So you got it. These are some of the things, but that's just the concept, right? It's conceptually, they can understand and absorb that and make it somewhat their own, right? So fitness and nutrition, if you're talking about performance, the fitness has to marry the nutrition as well as the nutrition marrying the fitness. I would even argue to say that nutrition is even more crucial than the fitness aspect, because what you put inside of your body is ultimately going to show you how you move, how you think, how you perform, how you answer, right? So everything marries each other. There's no one without the other.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Yeah. And then what is this interest in sustainability and holistic care, performance and healing? What makes you fascinated by this subject?
You cut out on that last part. You said what was the what now?
What really fascinates you about longevity?
Man, when I look at the Tom Brady's, right, the fascinating thing about longevity, we as humans can literally do and perform for as long as we want. The body literally can do whatever it wants to do. And you can take it as far as you want to take it, provided you give it what it needs. And that means you could be 60 years old, 70 years old, doing some of the same things that you were doing when you were 30s and your 40s. So that's the thing. That's what's fascinating to me and what gives me hope, knowing even for myself, like I still compete. I'm a martial artist, right? Next, but to know that I can do those things, right, provided that I give myself what it needs, the longevity of my body can go as long as I want it to, right? Because the body's resilient. So that's just what's fascinating to me,
It's been a fantastic conversation about health, fitness, longevity, performance. How do people follow you, reach out to you, visit your website, and connect with you?
My Instagram handle at Emeka, EMEKA _sports. So that's my Instagram handle for everything related, sports medicine related. Some of my tips that I usually post on my story, and then my website, Innovate, and those are all things sports related, health and fitness, and everything that I can offer the public in that sense.
And for all the audience out there listening, Dr. E's resources will be in the links and show notes. Thanks so much for innovative discussion, fascinating discussion. Thanks so much for coming onto the podcast.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.